Congratulations, you're not slow. This is Hard Parking, brought to you by Right Honda and Right Toyota out of Scottsdale, Arizona. I am your host, Jhae Pfenning, recording from my home studio in Gilbert, Arizona. As promised, I want to talk about Mother's Day. I also have a few observations from just kind of being out and about. I've done so many Father's Day episodes. Every year I do a Father's Day episodes, and they are some of the best episodes that do not necessarily feature a guest, although I guess many times they do. God, the years just kind of go by. This is, looking at it, it's May of 26. So we are coming up on 7 years of doing this podcast. Isn't that crazy? 7 years of stories, 7 years of guests when I have them. But I have not dedicated, I don't think I've dedicated an episode to Mother's Day and moms out there, period. So let's have a conversation about it. We're going to do that after this word from Arcus, Foundry, SparkForge. Speaking of Arcus, Foundry, SparkForge, make sure you head over to hardparking.com. You'll see the updated website. It looks great. That is the work of SparkForge. So if you like what you see, go ahead and let us know, and I can get you in contact with them. Or actually, listen to this message, this ad, and you can reach out to them yourself. If you run a business and you're tired of juggling tools, chasing logins, and constantly feeling like the tech side of things is heavier than it should be, this might hit close to home. That tech fatigue usually shows up as an outdated website, reviews slipping through the cracks, missed calls when you're busy, or social media that's always on the back burner. Most business owners know something's off, but fixing it feels like a bigger project than they have time for. SparkForge exists to take that weight off. It handles the tech behind the scenes, helps clean up how your business shows up online, makes sure calls and messages don't get mixed, keeps reviews from slipping through the cracks, and wrangles social marketing so you don't disappear for weeks. If you're curious, there's a short discovery session, and it comes with 90 days free to actually see if it makes things easier. No pitch, no pressure, just a real conversation about what's working, what's broken, and what you can simplify. So head over to getsparkforge.ai/hardparking to get started. Hey, so before I get into this Mother's Day thing, I'm going to kind of bring it full circle. A lot of people online responded when I posted talking about adding water or the next drink on top of the last drop of the prior drink. So my wife thinks it's gross, and some other people think it's gross, but more people than not, to my surprise, said, you know what? I do the same thing. Good for you. Good for all of us for fighting back. There's no reason to dump out the ice and rinse out the cup just to add water on top of it when you just got done drinking whatever it is you were previously drinking. And I do it all the time. But consider this. So setting up for Mother's Day, it was carryover from the prior week. We had a birthday party here. So we still had drinks in the coolers. We just left them in the coolers. I drained the water and I went to add ice. And so I took out this big bag of ice from the garage freezer and I dropped it once on the ground to loosen it up. You know, that's the move. Everybody does that. I noticed it had a small hole inside the bag. And so I go, well, if I drop it again, this hole's going to rip open. So I'm just going to hold it, take it over, and just dump it in said cooler. So take it out back in this beautiful igloo cooler that I have. Keeps shit cold for days. And I go to pour the bag in, the ice in, and the first thing that comes out is this giant clunk of ice that didn't break. Hits a Diet Coke can, thing explodes. It explodes like the old biscuit. Remember the biscuit container where you start unraveling the side and it goes poop, and it pops open? Look like that. So I have Diet Coke kind of up on me. I have Diet Coke, all over the place, and it's just still, oozing out. And I pick up this can, and I'm holding it like, okay, what am I going to do with this? And I decide to do nothing. I dumped the rest of the can out. Again, it's split in half, and I'm looking at the water, the drinks, and the ice. Do I really want to take all this shit out and rinse it off? No, I don't. Yeah, you know what happened. I just left the ice in there with the Diet Coke that is splattered all over the place. So when you reach in there and you grab your beer, you grab your soda, you grab your water, the water itself in the cooler was brown. Now, after a while, I did open up the back of it and let a lot of the water drain out. And then we put more ice in it. So at the end of the day, it really wasn't that brown, but it was a giant diluted version of the story from last week that went crazy on social media. So yeah, I'm that guy. You're welcome. So we went to my nephew's concert. He's part of the band, and we're all packed into this little this gymnasium. They got the 5th graders and the 6th graders and all that good yada yada. But my wife had mentioned to me, oh, well, on May 20th, I think it's May 20th, it's his graduation. I go, graduation? You go, oh yeah, he graduates. And I don't know if he's in 5th grade or 6th grade, but I'm just gonna go out here and I'm just gonna say it. Kindergarten graduation, 5th grade graduation, 6th grade graduation, if you're going off to like middle school or junior high, stupid. What's the point? Like I understand the graduation ceremony from going from high school. I mean, a high school diploma is a big deal. Jobs look at that. Colleges look at that. Sometimes you can't graduate. So you either have to go back to school or you have to get a GED, if that's even still a thing in 2026. Probably not with the way we are with our system. No child left behind. We got to slow down the class for the slow kid. But I am getting off topic here. Other than cute pictures for your kid, like, what are we doing? Congratulations, you're not slow. I was going to say the R word, but I don't want to get canceled for that. It's like we're celebrating the fact that our kid can keep up with the other kids and go on to the next thing that isn't any, like, it's not like you're graduating high school and going on to college. Congratulations, you're smart enough to go to the next level of normal ass school. Now, there's situations where you get held back, right? My brother got held back in 2nd grade. We had moved from another state and we joined halfway through the school year. Many of you out there, you either know this is either you or you know people that this has happened to. So you transfer to a different school district. The curriculum could be different, especially from state to state. And he was behind on the curriculum. You know, if you join kindergarten halfway through the school year, not a big deal. You join another grade halfway through the school year, probably a bigger deal. Again, another state, whatnot. And my whole life, he's always had A's and B's. I'm the dumb kid in school. I had terrible grades. But even in that, to me, that's okay. Plus, we all develop at different times. Some kids are dumb as hell when they're young and they're smart as hell when they're old. Some kids seem like they're the smartest kid in class when they're young and they're dumb as rocks when they're old. But what are we doing with these kindergarten, 5th grade, 6th grade graduations? Just stop. Anyway, we'll probably be going to it. Got to support the kids, right? The other day I was going to Trader Joe's to buy flowers for Mother's Day because, you know, I usually go somewhere and I buy these flowers and they're always beautiful, but they cost too much. Like if we go to AJ's and if you go to Fry's, they're like super cheap. So my wife's always like, go to Trader Joe's. They got better flowers, right? So I go to Trader Joe's. I'm buying these flowers and I'm sitting there in traffic and I'm looking at the light and there's an old man in a Nissan Altima next to me or in front of me. He had a historic plate on his Nissan Altima. Now, for you non-car people, you may be thinking, what's the big deal? Car people know what I'm talking about. Sure, the vehicle may be old enough, but what are we doing with a historic plate on a Nissan Altima? Just because a car is old doesn't mean it deserves a historic plate. Sure, it meets the requirements of age, and technically that's the only requirement. But what are we doing? I'm going to go buy me a 1980s Caprice Classic and put a historic plate on the back? No. That's for nice cars, collector cars. A Nissan Altima? What are we doing? And finally, I was coming home from an event last weekend, and I'm at the light. Wait for the light to turn green, make a right-hand turn in the NSX, and I'm driving, and I noticed this car in the back of my, like, kind of in the corner of my vision, this car kind of get behind me and fly over to the other lane. I'm like, oh, that's weird. Because Walmart's over there, right? So maybe you know how the people, they get over like really fast and cut people off. So I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And then I kind of look in the rear view and I notice this person that shot over to the other side is throwing up the middle fingers. I'm like, oh, who's this person flipping off? That's weird. And I look at my side mirror and I could swear this woman was flipping me off with her shitty ass car and her heavily oxidized hood, you know, like an old Sentra or something. And she just like, I'm like, oh, Okay. I guess. Don't know what happened. Maybe I cut her off. Maybe I didn't move up fast enough and she wanted to get over. Not entirely sure. But it's one of those things where like, I would never cut somebody off on purpose. I'm very defensive driving minded. I'm always looking around. And for someone like that, like I didn't know because she kind of got behind the car next to me, like 2 lanes over. And I'm like, is this woman going to get out and come over to my car and key it or start yelling at me through my window or something? And I'm going through all these thoughts as I'm sitting at the next light, like this crazy person. And I don't understand road rage. I think I've talked about road rage before. I don't understand road rage. Help me understand road rage. People are crazy. Like I said, like my dad was that guy. Like if you cut him off, he would drive up behind you and ride your bumper, or he'd get in front of you and slam on the brakes. I never understood that. Like, Dad, what are you doing? Like, what are we doing? And then you hear the stories, you see the videos where people get out and you F around and find out people get shot, people get hurt. What's the point? Me, if you cut me off, I might laugh. Chances are maybe you didn't even see me, but I'm just like, all right, whatever. Obviously, you're in a bigger rush than I am. What a dad thing to say, right? What a granddad thing to say. But I just don't understand road rage. And I still don't know. Maybe I cut this person off unintentionally. Maybe I was driving too slow and they just really wanted to get over. Which, by the way, there's always another turn. There's always another exit. All right, let's talk about Mother's Day. So Mother's Day around here is always complicated. I mean, my wife, obviously, right? And my mother-in-law lives with me. You know, our daughter, she's a mother of 3 wonderful kids. My son's girlfriend, now he has a daughter. And so I got 4 grandkids. That's another mother. My brother-in-law, his wife, Ashley, they're always over here. And there's a lot of mothers in our lives, a lot of mothers in my life. There's my mothers in my life, too, up in Minnesota. And, man, I think maybe it's we spend so much time as a society talking about moms, Mother's Day, Mother's birthday, mom, and some people don't have their mother anymore, which really sucks. I get it. I still have mine. I know I'm very, very fortunate and very grateful that she's still with me after losing my father almost 6 years ago now. But we don't get forever in this world. But when I sit back and think about my mom, she's hardcore. I love her, but she was the strict one. You always hear moms always threaten, if you're fortunate enough to have 2 parents, a male and a female in the house. No controversy. That's just me. That's my take. That's my belief. No problem with 2 women raising a kid. But it's always wait till your dad gets home or when your dad gets home. And so my father was kind of the enforcer in a way with the tone, but my mother was the one that would slap me if I got out of line and the one that I would typically get grounded with and the one I would buck up to. As I got older, like, woman, obviously I never fought or hit my mom. There was one time where my mom thought I was going to hit her and she sent my dad after me. And he didn't, my father and I never fought, but there was crazy times. But, when I think about my mom, I think about the woman I don't just think about the stern woman who raised me, because there's times where she used to always ask me, what am I going to do when I get out of school? What am I going to do when I grow up? And for years I would say, well, I'm going to be an artist. And she would say stuff like, oh yeah, right. And it sounds terrible because it is, but she really wanted me to have a plan because I was a mess. I'm an adopted kid. I fought with my identity most of my life. I'm pretty comfortable with who I am now, but I wasn't comfortable with who I was for a long time. And so I was probably more difficult. Mouthy as hell. Imagine that. And, she's from a small town up north, very small town in Minnesota. Not a lot of culture, not a lot of variety of, I wouldn't say necessarily people because there isn't, but just a variety of different things, different experiences, different viewpoints. but I mean, they adopted me, so that's it's not like, Minnesota is it's not, despite all the crazy shit that's happened there recently. I would rather have been adopted by people from Minnesota than people from, I don't know, Alabama, right? Why don't black people adopt kids, by the way? Anyway, side note, yeah, because my parents are both white. My brother is Korean, but aside from her being that, it was just with her. Oh yeah, right. I also remember her rocking me in the rocking chair when I would fall down. I was crying, like she was the one. She was very nurturing. And I know that, like in my family now, sometimes when we talk about my mom, everyone's like, well, I know your mom wouldn't put up with this, or yeah, all this shit that I go through when this house blows up with kids loud as hell. Yeah, that would drive my mom crazy. It drives me crazy. Not everybody is built for that. Not everybody likes that. Not everybody accepts that. But that doesn't make you a bad person. That doesn't make my mom a bad person if she doesn't want to sit there and put up with mouthy kids all day. She'll put up with it for a little while. Hell, look who she raised, me. I was mouthy as hell. My brother didn't say shit. So we were like yin and yang in that house, But that's what I think about when I think about my mom. And her birthday was also this past week. And so you have Mother's Day and birthday at the same time. And I try to call her a lot more often, and I've slowed down a little bit. And so I've told myself that anytime I think about calling my mom, just call her, because there's going to be days at some point where she's not going to be there anymore. That's life. That is just life. And it's just like, I still keep my father's contact information on my phone, his profile picture. And it's going to be the same way with mom. And she's not on death row or anything right now. She's, and I don't mean that from a jail aspect, but she's perfectly healthy. But still, and then I think about my wife. My wife is a very strong mother. She is the leader of the pack. She is one of 4 kids, but she is the one. She is the one that is the caretaker. She's also the oldest. Shocker, right? And so this is why my mother-in-law lives with us, because my wife is the main caretaker. And I knew that when we moved here to Arizona, that was pretty much a condition of the move. We have to bring mom with us. And I accept that. I know I sound crazy. Most of you are thinking, hell no, I couldn't do that. Well, you'd be surprised what you could or couldn't do. But there's just certain places I'm not willing to draw a line in the sand for, and that was one of them. I can make it work. We've made it work. Hell, we've been here since 2014, and it hasn't always been perfect, far from it. But my mother-in-law, she's a good woman. She's old school, and that's always the excuse for all these old people. Well, they're just being, grandpa's being grandpa, grandma's being grandma. No. Some shit's just never going to change, but that doesn't take away from, because she's crazy, but that's not going to take away from the amount of care and giving that she is as a matriarch, as the mother, the grandma, the everything that she is, especially even with the downs. I still appreciate the hell out of her. And I know she appreciates the hell out of me. I know she sees me as kind of like a rock for the family, the protector. And it's funny that I say this because some of you know the dog we used to have, Izzy. In fact, when you listen to this podcast, when you watch this, the dog barking at the very end was Izzy, that my dog that passed a few years ago. And he's, as far as I'm in control of it, he's always going to be the last noise on the podcast is Izzy barking and me telling him to shut up, and him barking again because he was mouthy too. But if it wasn't for my mother-in-law, like she basically helped me raise Izzy too, especially living here. And she's always the person who's going to clean the house, take care of everything. Sometimes it drives you crazy, but at the same time, she's just a strong woman. Now, my wife, one thing that attracted me to her, and it's easy to kind of turn this into like, this is how we met, and this is how our relationship is, and this is how we've survived the past 20 something years. We were married in 2004, so 22 years. But her with the kids, and when I met her, she was going to school full time. She was or going to school part-time, working a full-time job. When it was allowed for her to let me more into her lives, into the lives of the kids and the family, that was a big deal, because initially, no, it wasn't a deal. It was, she wanted to test me out, vet me out, as she should, as anybody should out there, whether you're a father dating and you want to introduce your woman or your guy to your kids, you got to vet them out so that they're not seeing this constant carousel of different faces and getting the wrong message. And so once I was able to meet the entire family, it just made it better. It's like, wow, what a strong woman this woman is, and at that point, her mother was already on disability. So being the oldest sibling, all her other siblings were still in school and still in high school, 2 small children, smallish, work full-time, mother on disability, going to college to further everything. It was just so attractive to me. And the fact that she wasn't from the place where I was living made it even better. So we had 2 different people coming from 2 different backgrounds, and it was rough at first because my upbringing, as was so different than hers. And every year, just being with her makes Mother's Day even that more special, because you see all that stuff. Now, I don't know if this is controversial or if people are going to say, "Thank God, Jay." I feel the same way. If you have kids and they're adults, my kids are adults, I think Mother's Day should be about your kids doing something for your wife, your kids doing something for the mom, not the husband. Like I get stuff, right? Like it's a gift, right? Everybody buys everybody other stuff, but to me, it's, hey, kids, now that you're both mature adults, do something for your mother. Take her out to dinner. Buy her a spa day at a massage, whatever. Or spa day at a massage. It's kind of, you know what I mean? Get her a spa day. And they've done that before, where it's like, hey, we bought mom a new Apple Watch or something kind of expensive. Mother's Day isn't for the spouse. It's for the children to do something for the mom. And you can debate me on that. Actually, there's nothing to debate. That's just my opinion. And we all do stuff anyway. But what did we do here? We had everybody over. We had plenty of food. I made some killer St. Louis style ribs. My wife wanted baby back. I said, no, babe, I'm going to make St. Louis style ribs because there's more meat per rib. They're usually they're more consistent in their shape. You can trim it better. And baby backs, half of them are juicy. Sometimes they dry out, half of them. And I don't need you DMing me and telling me how to cook. But I think those of you who smoke meats are going to agree with me 100% that at the end of the day, St. Louis style ribs are just better to cook and serve to a large group of people. But anyway, we had that. We had plenty of food, plenty of drink, plenty of moms over here, dads over here, plenty of kids over here. And to me, that's what Mother's Day is all about. Flowers out the wazoo. Flowers everywhere. It won't last forever, but it's going really good right now. And I think I'm very grateful to have so many mothers in my life, which obviously includes my mom, my mother-in-law, my wife, my daughter, my relatives. There's just so many mothers in my life right now. And I think that's what really makes Mother's Day special for me. So let me know. Do you have a favorite Mother's Day memory? Do you have something you'd like to add to this that's personal to you? Go ahead and drop it in the comments if you're watching this online, or shoot me a DM. So that being said, I want to thank Right Honda and Right Toyota, Arcus, Foundry, SparkForge. Like I said, go ahead, head over to hardparking.com and check out the new website. It's got a cool search feature in there. I want to thank Auto Cannon, officially licensed Honda and Acura gear. Patreon business supporter, Kogi Automotive out of Winter Garden, Florida. Automotive Specialty Tool out of Owings Mills, Maryland. Beak House Small Home Design out of Ashburn, Virginia, and Traverse City, Michigan. The Lucky Break Sports Breakers out of Caledonia, Michigan. And Shaping Success Treasure Valley out of Boise, Idaho. You're in position to help the podcast upgrade. Head over to Patreon facebook.com, Hard Parking Podcast, and join up. I want to thank Mark Stoneman, Catherine Cox, Eddie Ramos, Richard Gray, Byron Jones, Bojong, Alice Kamina, Drew Bunkley, and Trey Mullins. Email the show info@hardparking.com. Follow me at hardparkingpod on Instagram. And I will talk to you all next week. Shout out to all the mothers out there and the fathers pulling double duty.
Shut up!